Looks like perfect day outside, and I think it's a good opportunity to do a little do-it-yourself video of how to change brake pads on BMW. In this case we'll use e36. What used to be 328, has a lot of modifications, but it has nothing to do with the brake job we're going to attempt today. We are going to be replacing the front pads, and in a minute I'll just explain all the tools that are required to do the job and things to check along the way. One of the first things you want to check is make sure you don't have a lot of brake fluid in your reservoir. A lot of people often add fluid just because their pads wear out and the fluid just goes a little bit lower than the level. If you do that, you really want to open the reservoir and basically maybe get a little bit of fluid out, so when you compress the calipers you don't have extra fluid leaking out all over your engine bay. So the tools you need to do the job, just standard tools. You will use BMW wheel range, BMW jack. You'll need 7mm Allen socket. That's to unbolt the caliper. Just standard ratchet for that. Small screwdriver, a bigger screwdriver, and a C-clamp to compress the caliper to insert the new pads. Also standard rubber gloves or mechanics gloves is a good idea. In my case I chose to go with Hawk HPS pads. I really like these pads. That's what I currently have, and that's what I'm going to be replacing. So I went with another set of Hawk pads. In my case, the only slight difference you'll see is that I have the studs instead of logs, and I'll be using the deep socket just to remove them. So we'll start by raising the car on jack, and just follow basic BMW instructions on safety precautions. So you'll take a small screwdriver and carefully open the access point for the jack. And make sure you insert jack completely into the opening so it goes all the way in. And I would like to just kind of start it a little bit. And you want to unbolt the wheel first, just get it started, because if you raise the car the wheel will start spinning. So you just kind of start every bolt. Just a little bit so it's loosened. And then just raise the car. Once you get the wheel off the ground, that's all you need. You don't need much more. Just unbolt it. All the 5 bolts. Just remove the wheel and keep it away so it's not on your way. So what we did now, we exposed the caliper here and the rotor. My rotors are a little bit rusted because I haven't driven this car for quite some time now, and just rain gets the surface rust, don't worry about that. So what you will need to do is to remove this little spring slash bracket. It will be real easily done with a screwdriver. And on the back here I will show a little close up. You have 2 bolts. That's your Allen M7 or 7mm bolts that you will need to undo, and the caliper will just come off really easily. Also, we have a BMW brake sensor here. If your sensor didn't go off, if you didn't wear your pads all the way through to the sensor, you will be able to reuse the sensor in most cases. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So the first thing you might want to do here now is to remove this BMW sensor, so it's not in the way when you disconnect the caliper, you're not pulling the wires. And it's done by simply opening this little door here, and you'll see two connectors. One is for your ABS sensor, and another one is for your brake sensor. The gray one is the ABS sensor. You do not want to remove that one. Just follow the wire from the caliper and remove that connector, the black one. There's a little press tab here. Just press it and pull it apart, and that's your sensor. Just remove all those rubber grommets that hold it in place, and kind of let it hang loose, so again you don't damage it or anything like that. So now we want to start removing the caliper and taking out the brakes, the pads. So you need to remove this clip. For that, I'll use a bigger screwdriver that I have and kind of just press the spring, and it kind of snips out by itself from here. Do the same thing at the bottom. Sometimes it's just a little stubborn to remove, but nothing special. Just like that, and it really holds by those little tabs and holes in here, so you get the idea. It kind of springs this way, and just take it off and set it aside. So now in the back you'll see two black, I guess, rubber ends sticking out with caps at the end. Just use a little screwdriver to open the protective cap that keeps the dirt and everything away from the balls. One on the top, one on the bottom, and set them aside. Now you would use your 7mm Allen wrench and start unscrewing the caliper. Just kind of quick heat and get the bolt going, and loosen the bottom one too. Squeak, that gets it going. You don't have to take the bolts themselves all the way out. You can feel when they loosen. They can just stay there. Then you can just wobble the caliper a little bit so it kind of loosens its grip. And you can also use a screwdriver. Just go against the caliper here and stick the screwdriver against the rotor and kind of loosen it up, because pads are really tight. And just remove the caliper. So here it is. At this point it's just held by the brake line, so you want to, while you do the job, you want to hang your caliper somewhere here with like a bungee cord, so you don't put a lot of stress on the brake line. The outer pad just sits in the housings. You can tell my pads are pretty worn out at this point. Really not much left, and just take out the front pad, the pad that's closer. The one that's in the caliper, it's really easy. Just snap it off. You can see there are little clips that hold it in the piston, and that wire is your actually brake sensor. Just pull the wire out. You can really see I already start touching the sensor, but I think I'm going to be able to reuse it still, because it's just barely touching the sensor and has not worn it out yet. So just kind of compress the metal ears that are here and just pull the sensor carefully not to break it. So that's all to it. Nothing really, nothing to it. So here I kind of flip the caliper around just to show you those two bolts that you're going to be looking for in the back to unscrew it. Those are the sliding pins. Make sure they slide freely, because this is the design what's called floating calipers. When the pad wears out, it kind of moves on this bolt, and so you can take them out and just inspect, make sure they're clean. And that's your 7mm Allen, and that part that screws into the caliper holder bracket here. So the idea here now is to take your C-clamp and compress this piston so you can fit the new set of pads. They're obviously much thicker than the old ones you removed. Just place the C-clamp on the caliper like that, and slowly start compressing it. Once it gets all the way down, you can also put an old brake pad there and do it that way, but it doesn't really matter. It's a good idea to check, make sure the brake fluid is not overfilling your reservoir as well. Just kind of slowly compress it all the way down until it doesn't go anymore. That's it. It's all the way down. Doesn't go anymore. So just release your C-clamp and take it off. So you can see the pistons now compressed all the way down. So now it's time to take new brake pads and just install them. So I got my new set of brake pads open. You can see there's quite a bit of difference between the new pad and the old pad. You can tell that you can't even see this slit in the old pad because it's all worn out. Not a lot of meat left. So for each side you have one pad with this little clip that clips into caliper piston, and one pad that's without the clip that goes outside. You can see I installed one here. It's just basically you take the pads, align those notches, and just place it in place it here. It stays there, no problem. Also, a lot of pads come with grease pack. You usually use this to reduce squeal. You just put this grease on the surface that's going to be touching the caliper itself, not the rotor. Make sure you don't get any on the pad surface. Now for the sensor. The sensor goes into the pad that has the clip, the one that's on the side of the caliper, and again, really easy. Just snap that sensor right into the pad. So yeah, sensor just snaps, and not sure if you can see this little opening on the pad, so it just snaps into place. And use screwdriver carefully just to help a little bit. There we go. So now I'm going to use a little bit of grease on the pad. So just put a little bit around the contour here, and that's probably enough. So now you take this pad and we're gonna snap it into the caliper. So again, now you take the pad and feed the wire through the caliper opening here and snap it in place into the caliper here. Just align the springs and just like that. So the inner pad is installed. I will put some grease onto outer pad and install it as well. So I applied grease on this pad, and I also put a little bit of grease on those sliders here. Not a lot, just a tiny bit. And just place your brake pad here. Make sure it's seated all the way down, and should kind of move freely here. And next, just we're going to put the caliper back on. And just put the caliper back on. You can kind of start it like that, and that's it, caliper is seated. Now we need to tighten those 7mm Allens back on. Start it by hand here. Make sure you get the holes aligned, and there we go. This one started. Align the bottom one. Okay, looks like the bottom is also in. Get the wrench going now, and just get both of them snug first, and don't over tighten, just that should be enough, and just make sure it's snug, don't over tighten. Then don't forget your plastic caps on the back. Put them back on. Now the spring is just kind of, you can snap it by hand, align it like that, and press it in, and there you go. You can see it's snug in place. Route your wire back. So I'm gonna route it close here. This holder. Make sure it goes all the way down. And install it in this little housing right here. And snap the housing shut. So your rotor is, your brake pads are changed on this side. Put the wheel back and you're done. So we're done with this side. You will continue on the other side.